YouTube, welcome back to the channel. For this episode, I'm going to go through the process where, as a bilingual, you're allowed to use the first-time home builders program, and this allows a person from the BVI who live in the BVI who have bilingual rights to actually buy construction material outside of the BVI and import them into the BVI duty-free. Now, everybody knows that items in the BVI cost a whole ton of money. In my research, I've seen for some particular items that I've been looking here in the US, it costs 5 times as much in the BVI. So this program helps you to actually reduce some of your costs in construction, whether you're doing buying plywood or lumber or anything like that, finishes or anything like that. It allows you to have a way of actually reducing your costs in your phases of construction. Now, I've been using 2 companies for my previews for quotes. So most people don't realize that Home Depot and Lowe's have departments within their companies, right, that actually does stuff like this. So if I want to buy bulk items, right, as a department within Lowe's, I can actually email and contact and say, hey, I want this X amount of items. Can you give me a quote along with the discount for those items? So the more you buy, the higher the discount for your volumes for your products. So like I said, Home Depot and Lowe's have it right now. They've been having it for years. So right now, from my experience, Lowe's have the highest discount that I'm using. So basically, you give them your list of all your items, right? They give you a quote, and because these items are being shipped overseas, number one, there's no sales tax on your items. So all you need to do is provide them the location of where you want this item to be dropped off for delivery. And since I'm using Crowley, right, I already gave them the address so they can actually get everything processed to be delivered at that one location. The only thing you need to do as a buyer is to provide them the booking number. The booking number will be the item the shipping company used to allocate those items to be shipped under your name from point A to point B. So it's pretty much a straightforward process, right? So I've been dealing with Lowe's now for the last 2 weeks. So as far as I can tell, right, the discounts are pretty good. I'm gonna continue using them until I actually get my full list complete, and then I can get everything delivered to the location. Now, the only thing that you need to worry about is getting your items from here to there. So depending on where you're located at, you may have access to certain companies to ship to the BVI. I think most ship out of Miami. So if you know somebody in Miami area that close to like Capital or Crowley, right, you can probably use them to get your items bought and shipped down to the BVI in your name. So this whole process for the first-time home builder process, I'm gonna walk you through the documentation you're gonna need to have to be provided to customs, right? So you can get approval to go ahead and use this feature that was only allowed or available to BVI residents or bilinguals. So it's pretty straightforward. I don't think there's any kind of high learning curve. But the only thing other than having your documentation approved to be for construction, right? The only thing extra you need is the quantity to build documentation. And like I said in my last video, that can range between $500 to $1,200 depending on who you're dealing with. So that's the only additional documentation you need to get to this approval process to get reviewed and say, hey, yes or no, we have been granted approval. But other than that, there is no form to fill out, and the other forms you get for approval from town and planning, just submit those along with the quantity of build. And they will also ask for proof of residency, where you have to show you are bilingual. In some cases, I have provided my birth certificate, but that's not required, so you need to provide a copy of your passport. So they will ask for a copy of your passport with your picture in it to show that you are who you say you are with your picture. This birth certificate is not going to ask you that. You ask for your passport picture. So in the next part of this video, I'm going to show you all the documentation I have submitted to get my approval process done. And it's for me, it really took a couple of hours once I reminded them that I had submitted my paperwork. So through emails, I got everything approved within 2 hours. So it's not really difficult to get done. So as long as you have everything approved and you submit them, it's a quick turnaround by custom to get your final work stamp done. This is a copy of your main document for submitting your first-time home builders program process approval, and it goes directly to BVI Custom. You can email your documentation using this email address here, or you can drop off a hard copy over at the Pier Park with all your documentation for them to review. This allows you to get all your construction material imported into the BVI and be duty-free on importation. The only thing you pay duty on is for appliances and tools, I think, right? And if you have to pay a fee, it will only be for wharfage. And I think right now that's 2% of the value of all the goods right now for the wharfage fee. So the document is pretty straightforward, right? You need to submit a copy of the bill of quantities from a licensed quantity surveyor, right? You need a copy of the approval letter from Tongue and Country, right, from the Public Works Department. You need to show proof of citizenship. Now, when I submitted my birth certificate, they asked me for a copy of my passport picture. So I resubmitted that with my passport photo. You need a copy of this documentation here, which is called the first-time home builder declaration form, right? You need this filled out. You need a stamped copy of your approved house plans. So the documentation is pretty straightforward. This is actually they're explaining on what happens when you go through the process, what is required, right? So you need to actually fill out within this page here. You just put the date, you put your name, you agree to these laws or these rules declaration here within the form, right? So there's about 3 sections you fill out with your name, and then you sign and signature here, along with a witness that along with this documentation has to be done all at the same time. So you need a witness to sign on your behalf, saying that you saw you sign this and you're agreeing to all these rules here. The only thing you're gonna get back once it's approved, right, is the same page to fill out with a stamp down here below from customs. And that basically allows you to give this form, right, the stamp copy, to your importer, whether it's Crowley or Tropical Level. Give them a copy of that and say whenever it comes in, you don't have to pay duty on your items. So to go through the documentation you need to submit along with this, I'll show you what is required. So initially, when you submit your drawings for initial review to Tongue and Planning, right, you gotta submit a sketch. So before they allow you to go on to the next phase, they give you an approval letter saying, hey, you're allowed to construct or design within your drawings. For me, per se, I had 5 units in my building, so they gave me approval to say, hey, based on my request, right, I'm allowed to proceed with to the next step, and they gave me the parcel number and so forth for my plot. I had an agent. I used Charles Cooper, right? So he was my agent working on my behalf to submit this for me to get it approved. So just basically outlining all the next step you have to follow, right, to get to the finalization of all your drawings then completed. So all the for parking areas that I have required in my drawings, right, they have to be included. So it outlines those there in this approval process, right? So just follow what this documentation says, right, before you move on to the next steps. And once you clear on what needs to be done, right, you're pretty much straightforward with getting everything done on time. So it just basically this will have to be submitted to with your first-time home builder approval process forms. So this is documentation 1 here. The next one you will need is a quantity of bill, right? So the quantity of bill is basically just telling somebody, I use this company here in the BVI. It just basically tells you the cost breakdown of the building, right? What kind of materials you're gonna be using, the labor and so forth. So this is a high level. I'm not gonna go through the full detail of what's in my quantity of bill, but this just give you all the phases, the cost breakdown, right? In the more details, as I go into the documentation, the more detailedly written out as to for as what almost I would need like materials and so forth into the documentation. But the final cost will be here on the documentation, showing what it will cost to build the building from stage 1 through the full process. So this is a preliminary documentation based on the BVI cost, right? So remember right now, going through the first-time home builder process, we allowing the builder, right, or the person who want to build this building not to buy materials in the BVI. It allows you to buy the material outside of the BVI and to import them into the BVI duty free. So the cost you have see here breakdown, they're just preliminary because, like I said, I'm buying my materials outside of the BVI. So these numbers that you see won't be the real numbers I'll be actually visualizing for my project. But I need to have one of these to submit to get that approval process ongoing. The next document you will need, once you go through once you go through public works, right? They send you back a TCPD approval letter, right? And this is what it looks like. So they basically saying, come from the Premier office is saying, my final approval was done on June the 14th, right? It gives me my application number, right? My agent who actually was representing me on my behalf, my block number, parcel number, and so forth, right? And then it was approved. So it tells me it was approved, right? It tells me I have a stamped copy submitted back to me, right? It has my building permit as well. It tells me how much time I need to give the department to come on site for expansion, right? So it's 48 hours and so forth. So, and also if I need to make any changes to my drawings once they're approved, right, I need to go through the process through town and country planning again, right, so that they can review and say, hey, okay, we approve the changes. You can go ahead and make these changes in your physical construction development of your project. So everything here is in writing in black and white, so you will need to submit this to as well with your first-time home builder program process. My approval drawings, I think I showed you guys that, but like I said, let me show you it again just to make sure I did it. It's basically just showing you for your drawings, right, for your contractor drawing, right, just have a stamp on each page saying when they were approved, right, and the department approved those, right. So all the pages have to be stamped. If they're not stamped, you cannot use them, because if they come on site and inspect your drawings, right, and you're not stamped, right, you're in big trouble. So always have a stamped copy of the drawing at the location when you build it. On the next approval documentation we need to submit is a building permit, right? So this is what it looks like. It has my name on it, right? It's come from, it says government building permit, my name, reason why it's being issued and so forth, location, my parcel number and so forth, and the date was approved. Now you have to have this on site at all times, so when the person comes to inspect your steel work, right, they can actually review your work and provide a sign off and remarks and so forth, right. There's fees to be paid, so what I did, I paid all my fees when I submitted my drawings to public work, so I don't have to pay any fees for any kind of inspection on site as of right now. All my fees has already been paid upfront. So it also gives you a timeline of 36 months. So between 36 months, once you get it initially approved, if you have not started construction, you have to redo everything over again. But once you start construction, right, it becomes valid for lifetime of the building completion until it's complete. But you have to start within 36 months once you get this finalized approval to start your building process to start at that site location. So this is basically all the documentation you need. I haven't shown you a copy of my passport because that's private. So other than that, everything you see here that I have shown here, you will have to submit to customs, and the turnaround time is usually, for me, it took only a couple hours because I had to remind them that I had submitted a week before. But once I started communication through emails, right, the whole thing was reviewed and approved within 2 hours. So So they're pretty fast if you're using email. So hope you like the documentation or the process where I show you all these steps. But remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.